Welcome back to the Simply His Coffee Shop. We are talking about mothers and motherhood and how that's impacted our lives and how incredibly stressful and amazing it is all at the same time, right? And we do want to also wish you all a very happy Mother's Day, because today will be Mother's Day when this airs. To continue our conversation, we had kind of talked about how we perceived motherhood as kids and growing up and what that meant to us, and then finding out the first time that we were actually expecting our first child and what that looked like. So if you did miss that episode, go back and watch it. It was pretty entertaining. It was
fun.
Lots of storytelling going on for sure. Getting back into the conversation, we've just found out that we're expecting. Now what? What happened from there? What did you nest a lot? Did you get super prepared?
Good question.
I don't remember even having a thought of being frightened. The only thing I was just very aware and cognizant of everything except what I was eating. Being that big around, you know.
You didn't have to worry about what you were eating.
No, I gained 50 pounds with the first one. And good grief, it was evident. Because you think, I can eat for two.
Oh, yeah.
So that means 2 candy bars. So it's 2
one
Frosties.
for me, one for baby.
Right, exactly.
And that's not how it works.
No,
so just be aware.
Did the baby want?
There was a lot of Hershey's. And this is, and you talk about weird pregnancy cravings. When I was pregnant, my first, remember those famous Amos little tiny cookies that when they first came out? So I would crunch them up in macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
And eat them together.
Okay.
Oh.
That was like my go-to.
That's like a sweet and salty deal.
I know. And fried bologna.
Inside all of that?
No.
Oh.
That was my protein.
That was on the
That
side.
was my protein.
Okay, so fried
A lot of fried bologna.
with a side of macaroni and cheese topped off with Amos cookies. Cool.
Chocolate chip cookies, yeah.
Probably my craving was strawberries
Oh.
with my first one. The second one was dill pickles and lemon. The third one was cheese.
Really? Isn't that something?
Yep.
That is funny.
It is fun.
I've noticed too that with like each of my kids, what I wanted to eat like the most of while I was pregnant with them, they have a natural craving towards part of that.
Yeah.
And I know, like with what you just said, that does describe all of your kids. No, it does, doesn't it? Kate's laughing because she knows all of the kids too, because seriously, Allie loves fruit and will just eat fruit and salad and things like that. Joe loves pickles and sour things and fermented foods and stuff like that. And then Donna loves cheese. Yeah. She will eat cheese.
If you see her on platform on Skywatch, what you don't know is under the desk, she has a napkin with little cheeses.
No, she does.
True story.
True story. Absolutely true story. So that's funny that you say that. So then, like, I never actually had a lot of, like, cravings. The only one I had cravings with was Nita. Oh, my Lanta. Anyways, ask Penny about that. If you ever meet Penny or see her, ask her about my pregnancy cravings, because she just laughed all the time with her. But with Kate, I ate a lot of Asian food. Oh. So, like, we had a favorite Chinese restaurant that we would go to.
Sushi girl.
I know, right? And now she cooks Asian. She eats it all the time, every chance that she can get. But it wasn't necessarily a craving. It's just because of where we lived at the time. It was one of the more easier places, and we had a favorite place that we would always go to. So that's just the food that I always ended up eating. And then with Nita, I craved, like with her, she's the only one that I really had like an actual like distracting craving. Like, I mean, I craved it. Like it was distracting a couple of times. But I wanted chocolate donuts.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Chocolate donuts from the gas station.
Oh my God.
Even better.
Oh my God.
It was the weirdest thing. And now she wants to eat all of the sweets.
She is a sugar hound.
She is a big-time sugar hound. And then with Rebecca, if you want to call it again, mild craving. With her, it wasn't like, I have to have this. With the donuts, dear Lord, I went to work a few times, and Penny worked with me at the time, and she'd have to run down to the store sometimes to get me a donut to just get me to shut up, to stop talking about him, because I wanted that chocolate
Just
donut
shut
so
up and eat
bad.
this, please.
It was hilarious. But
That's
anyways,
funny.
and then with Rebecca, I wanted yogurts and cheese and fruit type things, which is kind of funny. And then now she loves yogurt and fruit and everything like that. And then with Thomas, I craved a lot of meat and sushi to a degree too. And now he's my little sushi buddy.
Right?
That's
I
funny.
was surprised.
And meat. Yeah, at
he's
first he
such a
didn't
young
really
little kid.
like sushi, but
Oh, he likes it.
he likes it now.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll even come and ask, Mom, can I have some sushi?
Yeah. I was surprised to see a little kid that young really like
Like
it
sushi, yeah.
and understand what they're eating.
Exactly.
Yeah, he likes it.
So now Kate also has a sushi buddy.
So when you brought your baby home, did you have a whole nursery set up, or did you have just a few things, or what did that aspect? And a couple of other questions just to kind of keep the conversation moving. When you first looked at this first child, and actually every single one of them are different. So when you take a look at the first look at the baby, they've placed it in your arms, and you get eye-to-eye contact with this little tiny human, as Charisse puts it. Which I love those words, by the way. I actually will be really honest. Since I'm talking, I'll tell mine first. With my oldest one, I laughed out loud because she looked like my husband's face, all scrunched way down into an old man. Just this old man little face, right? Just that big around, just about as big as a grapefruit. Just this little, but it looked so much like him, I had to laugh. I had never seen anything quite like that.
That's hilarious.
I had never seen a newborn.
Right.
So when I looked upon this newborn and I realized this was a product of two people, and this is a unique individual little child, but the characteristics of each one of us was right there.
Yeah.
But it looked like somebody had taken his face and scrunched it way down. Even had that little horn nose, which all of my kids have. Oh, and I checked for all the digits.
That's the first thing
Don't
I
know
did.
why, but I had to count all the
first thing I
fingers and
did.
all the toes and make sure the whole body was
Yep,
normal.
exactly.
Even though they've told me everything's good, you have to
Right.
you have to look.
You have to do it yourself.
Yep, and
for
I did
sure.
that with all three of my kids.
I honestly, I was so out of it because I was in labor for so long.
Oh yeah.
When they would, because back then it was a little different than it is now. Now it's the stop and drop instead of stay for a couple of days, you know.
Right.
Remember when they would bring him in, I didn't want them to take him out of my room. It's my kid.
Right.
This is mine. But they had protocols back then. They
Right.
would only bring him in so many hours to you
Yeah.
and take him away. And then
Yes.
and I was in recovering too, you know.
Right.
But still, I was just like, that's mine.
My first and second one was pretty much, we were there for 3 days. The third one, Donna, actually had her bilirubin count was not right. And so they sent me home. She was there 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And those nurses doted over her at the hospital. And I had to go up there 2 or 3 times a day to do the feedings, and they would do bottle in between. That was a little bit scary.
Oh,
Coming
yeah.
home without my baby, that was a little
Oh,
bit scary.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
That would be.
very much so. Very
but I
much
mean,
so.
everything turned out great afterwards. But so they sent me home with this little gift pack that had all the kinds of stuff in it, and to this day, I still love Downy. That's a little commercial there.
Oh, uh-huh.
But you know, they send you these different
Yeah.
sample products.
Yeah.
Just food for thought. Oh, and I never used diapers like the throwaway kind. They sent me home with this little pack, and when those were gone, I had to wash and clean all of my diapers
Oh my gosh.
all by myself. I didn't even have a washing machine.
Wow.
So these were all hand scrubbed. My knuckles were hurting.
Oh, wow.
I've been hanging them out. I was thankful when we got our first washing machine. It was an old Maytag that had a wringer on the side. And it was great. I'd plug it in and then I'd wring them out and hang them on the line.
Yeah.
That was my days. Makes it sound archaic, but that's true life.
Right, exactly.
That's
No,
who
it
I
is.
was. It's true life. I was
Yeah.
thankful to get that thing.
In the islands, we had to do that too. So, like with my niece, when she was born, we had cloth diapers for her.
Yeah.
So that's all we did, and all the islanders only ever used cloth diapers. So I was very well used to all of that. But for my own, because most of them went to daycare,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to do that to the daycare person.
Right.
So we just used disposable, but
Right. Yeah.
I had more with disposables with the third one, but I still used a lot of my own. When I was home, I used that.
Right.
But okay, as a mom goes, moving into the toddler years and then going into the preschool, let's talk a little bit about those experiences.
Oh my goodness. Well, I had two within 16, 18 months. So it was kind of fun. I had these two little humans like together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like when I was potty training my oldest, Stephanie would peek under the door and watch, and he potty trained her basically.
Yeah.
Because he did
learned
it.
how.
Oh, wait a minute. He got a sticker.
Oh, yay.
You did number 1, you got one sticker. You did number 2, you got 2 stickers. That was my system.
That's cute.
And like then with Harper coming up, you know, my grandbaby, she got the book, The Potty Princess, and we put a crown on her, and then I bought a toilet light that glowed purple and pink. So things changed.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Still, Toby would walk in the bathroom and be like, what in the world?
There's a whole light show going on.
The toilet was pink, yeah. Things changed a little bit.
Then there's the difference in the mom and the grandma aspect of it.
Very much so.
Too funny.
Very
That's
much
hilarious. Okay.
Okay, so Katherine, hold up a second. Before we move any further, let's go back and have you add your first moment that you saw your first baby, Kate.
Okay, so I wasn't like, I had never really been at an actual birth before, so I didn't know some of the stuff that goes
Right,
on
no.
with birthing and what the baby comes out looking like. So I had her natural and everything like that. So, you know, they grabbed her and they literally just kind of threw her up on my chest and everything. And she's all wet and goopy. She's wet and goopy. Why is she goopy? But then I'm like, she's on my chest and I'm like, oh, baby. And I'm like, I'm wanting so much to like hold her and stuff, but then I don't know if I'm supposed to touch her
Touch
with
the
the
goop.
goopy. So that was like my first kind of reaction
that's
because
different.
it's like she's wet and she's got stuff on her and I don't know, am I supposed to touch her?
Right.
What's going on
What do
here?
we
And
do with
nobody
this?
exactly, and nobody had told me, oh, it doesn't matter. So I mean, I wasn't not holding her because it was gross or anything. It's just I just didn't know what to do.
Am I
Like,
allowed
Right.
to touch the goop?
can I touch it? And what's going on?
Right.
So
Well, because we're always presented with the child that's all cleaned up.
yes,
as
because
we
like
see
in
it
the movies, you
movies,
see
right,
it's
right, right.
just
It's like-
all clean and it's the
exactly.
thing and a
Exactly.
deal.
Yeah.
But that was like my first initial thought when because I mean, literally, she came out, they threw her up there, and I'm like, oh, baby. And, you know, I'm like, touch. Anyway, so that was my first, like, real quick initial thought when she first came out. But, you know, obviously, once they had me all cleaned up and her all cleaned up, and then you're just kind of in awe, that sense of awe, like, this thing literally just came out of my body.
I know, exactly.
I literally grew it inside of my body. This is like awe. It's just awe.
It is
I know.
very, very awesome.
It's incredible, that feeling of like, I literally grew this little tiny person, came out of me,
Yeah.
and look at it.
Yeah.
It's just that feeling was crazy. But yeah, the first initial little deal was like, it's
goopy.
gross. It's goopy. What is it?
It's an alien.
I know. But since then, it's just crazy because I've actually been able to attend a couple of births and stuff too. And the whole thing is just completely fascinating to me. But a lot of people are like, oh, it's so gross. And oh. I'm like, no, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool to
miracle.
be able to see that and to experience that.
Right.
Even if it's not your own, even if it's
Yeah.
somebody else's, it's like, that's still the coolest thing
Exactly.
you can ever see. And you know, those like, as a kid, you had those little capsules that you'd put in water and then the plastic capsule would melt and then it kind of popped open and then whatever the little foam thing was in there.
Yeah.
I always think babies are kind of like that,
That's
where
funny.
they're kind of big because, you know, obviously you're way out here
contained.
and the baby's there, but then it's almost like once they do actually come out, it's like they expand all of a sudden.
Exactly.
It's like, how was that even in there and how did that actually come out?
No.
It's just incredible.
Yeah. I was in the delivery room with both my grandbabies, so it was like the sweetest, coolest to experience your child experiencing that. You know what I mean? That's just the best.
Yeah, Mom was there for all four of mine. She got to be in there. She was supposed to catch Rebecca, and then Rebecca ended up getting stuck, which that was scary. So then she couldn't catch her. But anywho,
No, but we prayed that one through. That was tough there for a few minutes. We weren't sure.
Yeah.
And even the nurses were like,
Yeah,
a
the
little bit
midwife
nervous.
and the nurse was
Yeah.
really nervous about her.
No, I get that.
That was scary.
So having gone through all of the infancy stages, and you've lost a lot of sleep by now,
Oh, my gravy.
you know, you've smelly diapers and all of that, and then you get to your toddler years where you've got the terrible twos, the wonderful ones, terrible twos, the trying threes and the fearful fours, and the list goes on. There's a little tag on every age and the emotional aids all the way up. So teaching and training all of your kids throughout all of these, a lot of these are first words, first songs. They learn to ride bikes. They learn to read books. So motherhood is now progressing faster. And the older you get, the faster it goes. Let's take a sneak peek into the preteen and teenage years. Just a
have
brief
mercy.
look. Tell me what was going on in your minds whenever your kids were hitting preteen. Oh, we don't want to go there?
It's like, Jesus, just rapture now. Just rapture now. Yeah.
Okay, well.
That's always tough, you know.
Well, and I think it's different for each kid, too,
Oh, yeah.
because, you know, and that's why the toddler years, in a lot of ways, the toddler and elementary ages are so important because that's where you're building your foundation.
Yeah.
You know, if you're having a relationship with your child that's a good and healthy one, but you're also letting them know, hey, I'm a safe person to talk to. And then here's the people that you can go talk to if you're uncomfortable talking to me. Here's the approved people
Right.
that you can go and ask them questions about anything that you have going on in your head. Because, you know, sometimes even though you might have a great relationship with your kid, I think that it's also important for them to feel safe going to somebody else, because there might be certain things that, hey, you know what, I really don't know how to tell my mom and dad, fill in the blank. And it might not even be anything that big of a deal, but in their little heads, because again, they're figuring out what they think about life and what their values are and what they even think about things, you know. So having people set up in your child's life too, that you can tell them, hey, if you're uncomfortable talking to me about a certain subject, or you just need to even talk about me to a safe person because you're frustrated with me as your parent because I'm not letting you go out for a sleepover or a this or a that. We've always told our kids that if you are uncomfortable talking to me or your dad about it, you have your grandma you can go talk to. You have your Aunt Allie. You have your Aunt Penny. You have Charisse. You have all these people that I know would be giving my child the same type of advice that I would be giving them. But they still feel like, hey, I have some control over who I talk to
And
to
it's
a
not
degree.
coming from you, but it's the same
Exactly,
message.
but it will be the same message. So I think having those formidable years, though, as the base, then going into the teen years and the tween years,
I agree with you,
are going to be a little bit better in some ways. But man, once them hormones kick in and stuff, sometimes that just brings a whole nother level. But again, especially since I do have two older ones, Kate's getting ready to turn 19, and then Nita, it just turned 15. So, you know, it's that. And then Rebecca's up and coming at 10, you know, and her little hormones are starting to kick in on certain things. So it's like, if I have a good base so that my kids can trust me and they know what's expected of them, I think in some ways it makes it a little bit easier. But I mean, kids, they can make bad choices or something happens to them that maybe you as the parent don't know about that changes their personality. That's a big tell. If your child's personality changes, find out what's happened. Because there's probably something that's happened that's caused that. And that's, again, if you have a relationship with your kids, you should be able to spot that pretty quickly. Being a mother is a calling. It is your biggest priority to me. It was like, as soon as I have kids, yes, I stayed a working mom. I was working full time and all of that. But I still took enough time, you know, to get to know my kids and build that relationship with them, because nothing is more important than pouring into your kids, because you are creating the next generation. And you have to create strong leaders. You have to create people. And, you know, I watch other moms and stuff, and it's like, man, I really wish I could have their kid, because their kid is so compliant. I've used this analogy before too. Like, Kate was always like, if you told her, don't cross this line. What line? This one? And she'd go like hop across it. That line? Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, that's me. That was me. People would say, there's a story when I was in a walker, and my parents had just bought these beautiful, remember the stereo cabinets with the big speakers and the whole the hi-fi, right? And the story goes that I was given a banana, and I'm walking around, and they would say, don't touch that. And I took the banana and ground it into the speaker.
Nice.
And so it's kind of indicative of the way I am now.
But all of those characteristics, even though they're different, if you can, as a mom, and this is where you don't get a manual to tell you how to do this, but if you can figure out how to take that little individual and channel those who that little person is to a better rendition of that. So if you have children like we're describing, let them live.
No doubt.
They have God has a plan for them.
Exactly.
For me, I have all the age groups right now to a degree. The only one I don't have is the baby and toddler anymore. Thomas is in elementary because he's 7 years old. So I still have a lot of the stuff that goes along with that. And then I have Rebecca, who's 10. And then I have Nita, who's 15 and just got her permit. So now I'm teaching her how to drive.
To go to prom with a male.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then I have...
ride along.
She's going to ride along. And then I have Kate, who's 18 and just moved out. You know, so that's a lot of span. And so, you know, a lot of churches, you know, have life groups and stuff. I'm like, I don't think you have a life group for me.
No,
because, you know, they try to pick families or whatever that can do life together that are in the similar states. I'm like, well, which one are you going to put me in? You going to put me in the young adult?
Right.
People that have a young adult or a teen or a child?
Right.
Which one are we going to go with? Because not a lot of people have that big span of kids.
You guys really do have quite a bit of different things going on in every level. And everything, also from sports to everything.
Oh,
Katherine
man.
is dance mom.
Yep.
And then Thomas does baseball right now.
Yeah.
And Becca also does dance.
Yeah.
And Kate, like you said, has moved out and is on her doing other things.
So your mothering changes, you know, because again, you're going through all these progressions, but just because you're in it with this one doesn't mean that now this child...
It's not cookie cutter.
No, it's not cookie cutter at all. So helping Kate navigate, you know, moving out and how to be an adult and make decisions and things like that. And
that's a lot
it's insane.
Of stretches.
It is.
Those are other kinds of stretch marks.
Oh, my gosh, right?
Yeah.
That's the truth. And it doesn't stop, you know, when they get older. I mean, you still worry.
Well, and you still call your mom. I mean, like, I still call my mom. And I call her because she's my other mother, and she's the one that's here that lives next door. Mom, Thomas is doing this, and he has a this and that a thing. Can you come look at it?
Yeah.
You know, you still need your mom. Yeah. You're never outgrow needing your mom or your parent.
We lean
your dad
hard on Toby's mom. I mean, she's mom to me, you know, obviously. Yeah. And, you know, yesterday, what's the difficult conversation is, you know, we buried a mom yesterday, sweet, precious friend. And, you know, just seeing, you know, that cycle, you know what I mean? So, you know, you cherish those that are, you know, good moms. They're such pillars in your life.
Absolutely.
You know, when something's going on, call mom. I need her to pray.
Yep.
You know, it's like mom prayers bust through heaven faster than anybody else's prayer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say there is something to that. In fact, I was just looking at these notes I had put together, and I wanted to share Proverbs 31:28 and 29. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you have surpassed them all. I want to say something about that mother's prayer that you just were talking about. Joe calls them haymakers. And so when he wants, you know, Mother Debbie, which is his other mother, and in our world, he will call her and say, Debbie, I need a haymaker. Because he knows that if he tells her that, this the mother heart going to kick in.
Yeah.
Right.
And even though this is not her biological son, we go back to the word mom.
Right.
Go
Right.
back to the word mother. We go back to what you were talking about, where you have other people in your life
Yeah.
that kids can go to when they have something that they need and you're not there.
Right.
Or maybe they have a better, maybe with Debbie, it's a little more of a connection with this particular issue that he's
Right.
dealing with. So I wanted to also just say, in lieu of what we just talked about, and in lieu of all the moms and all the mother things that we struggle with and we sacrifice, things we sacrifice to our own hurt. I never did talk about my mom very much, but I can tell you that my mom, she lived with the domestic abuse for many, many years.
Yeah.
And she put up with that because she was threatened that if she ever made changes to the marriage, the children would pay for that.
Wow.
And so Mom stayed with it and until it was no more. But I wanted to also highlight an aspect that when I was very young and had met my husband, I heard about this woman named Grandma on his side of the family. And the prayers of Grandma and how Grandma shake the gates of heaven.
Yeah.
And how she travailed in prayer for
Yeah.
her children. She prayed for every single one of her kids to know
Yeah.
God. Now, this is what I came into. So I always had a high regard for this woman that I never met. But I will tell you, her prayers, I watched as I grew and got older and as our marriage and our family was raising, I watched how every single one of her children, to my knowledge, and she had a bunch of them. I think there was 23 kids total.
Oh my word.
She prayed for every single one of them. Some of them were not. Some of them died early in life, but she prayed that every single one of them would know God. Now I can't confirm all of those, but from what I can, God heard every one of those prayers, and they are all waiting on the other side. So I wanted to say, her children rising call her blessed.
Yeah.
That is a blessed woman.
Yeah.
That is a woman who impacted my life. At a very young age, when I didn't even know what it was like to be a mom, and I heard this woman is so in tune with God that the haymakers are happening.
Right. Right.
And it wasn't. This was far after she had passed away,
Wow.
and her prayers for her children continued to
Yeah.
be answered. So I want to throw that out there for you women out there who are making haymakers for your kids.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing anything,
Walking the floor at night.
please know that even if you don't see it happen in your lifetime, the haymakers will still commence.
Oh,
Amen.
absolutely.
Because there were lots of her babies, and as far as I know, all of them.
Wow.
You know, I have not been told differently.
Mm-hmm.
So even after you are not on this earth anymore, your legacy,
Your legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
and who you are as a person, as a mom, as a grandma,
Right.
can still linger and live on. And I love that cycle of life. So if nothing else, achieve that. Strive to know that. Be that in your life. If I thought that after I was dead and gone, that my kids and my grandkids found strength in who I am and what I'm about, bring it.
That's the crown.
I want to pray that.
Yeah.
I want that.
Absolutely.
I want that haymaker. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Well, and
It's the
that-
Grandma Horn legacy.
Absolutely. And that goes back, though, too, to your description of a mother, of motherhood,
Right.
basically, of you can be a foster mom, you can be a stepmom, you
Right.
can be a surrogate mom,
Right.
you can be any and all of those, because
Absolutely, yeah.
motherhood, it does not mean you only give birth to that child
No,
and raise
exactly.
them. There's people that have impacted my life. Grandma Lynn
Absolutely.
has impacted my life. There's so many people that I look up to as a mother figure that have impacted me and made a huge difference. And that's part of their legacy,
Yeah.
you know? So when Dad was in the hospital and Aunt Judy walked in, and it was like, she is one of the women that I have
Who's one of your other mothers?
always looked up to as like, I want to be like her when I grow up, you know, because there's those people in your life that God brings in
Right.
to help form you into the person that you need to be.
Right.
And she was one of those people. So to have her come in
Yeah.
all of a sudden at random,
Right.
that was such a cool thing that God did that for me.
Absolutely.
So that just goes to show you exactly what you're saying. You want that to be your legacy, but it's like, I don't want it to just be only for my kids, though. Yes, I want that mostly for my kids and my grandkids, but I also want that for my kids' friends.
Right.
Be the house that all of the
Yes.
kids come
That
to.
was
Be
my
the
house.
place that is the safe space that you can impact those kids' life that say,
Absolutely.
hey, you know what? I remember back when Mama Reese did this,
Yeah.
or she provided that,
Yeah.
and she was the only person in my life that believed in me. Show them that light. Be that mother figure to those kids, because you never know whose life you're touching
No,
and what
exactly.
legacy you're leaving behind, even if it's not your own kid.
Yeah.
You know, that is so important. It's so tangible, and it
Yeah.
doesn't take much.
No.
You know, so just
Warm
be that
cookies.
light.
It was
Exactly.
warm cookies in my
For
house.
me, it was bicycles. Every kid in the neighborhood would bring their bikes to me, and I found out there were more of those kids in that neighborhood. Their parents were working, and they were home alone.
Oh, yeah.
So So that was my bike ministry. That one.
That's
couple years.
sweet.
My kids remember that. I'd bike ride with them. I was the only adult,
Wow.
and we'd go bike riding in the neighborhood, and they would bring their flat tires and their broken spokes, and we'd fix her up.
Well, and I think it is important too, like going back to the tiny human thing. These little tiny kids, and when you see that kid, that toddler that's screaming in the grocery store, you know, maybe he's having a bad day. We all know how cranky we get as adults,
Yeah.
but we're adults,
Big
so we
feelings
know
in a
how.
little person.
Exactly, we know how to deal with those feelings. But if a child hasn't been taught how to correctly take those emotions and those feelings and put them constructively,
Right.
they're still learning. So we have to get down, you know, on their level to a degree and say, okay, I understand you're having a bad day. You're very emotional. Let's just take a chill pill. Because I have to do that with Thomas sometimes, because, you know, he'll get super upset about stuff and he's crying and screaming and whatever. And it's like, dude,
Breathe.
let's take a calming breath. Here's a hug. Let's just calm down. We hope that you've had as much fun as we have had talking about memories and motherhood and the ups and downs and everything in between. Happy Mother's Day. You matter. No matter what stage of motherhood that you're in,
That's
you
right.
matter, and you can make a difference. Even
Absolutely.
be the grandma, the cool grandma house that has all the kids over to your house. Pray for them. These kids need prayer, and the stuff that's going on in the world
My gosh.
today, they need your prayers. And like Mom said, the haymakers, we need a haymaker for our kids. They need it so much. Pray for this generation that's coming up in the schools. Pray for the teachers that they'll have wisdom and patience and everything that they need to help these kids. Because again, sometimes the teacher is the only person that's been nice to them. And I know Joe has had quite a few teachers that he's since gotten out of school and reached back out to them and said, you were the difference in my life. You helped me realize things. And so be that person. Pray for these kids. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next week in the Simply His Coffee Shop.